Welcome everybody to Worship and Word Conversations, your Saturday afternoon, Sabbath afternoon spot for man. I forgot what we used to say in Jesus' name. The conversation can go anywhere
Yeah,
in Jesus' name. So this is the time where we hang out Saturday afternoons. Maybe you've had your lunch or your dinner and you kind of kick back, relax, and just you happen to stumble into a conversation. Yeah, this is that just in a virtual space. So yeah, glad to be with you this afternoon. Chris, how you feeling, man?
Cheers. Listen, I am feeling.
Got no water in my bottle.
I'm feeling like Will. Hey, listen, I am feeling real. I'm feeling hype. Last night I was hype.
Mm-hmm.
Today,
Yep.
it's just. There's just a shift. There's an oral shift that just has happened, and I took what we talked about last night, getting to the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brief, but it was just short enough to realize and to embrace what God, where God is. I remember you were talking about just sitting in the back porch,
Yeah.
the lawn chair. Just so I didn't sit, but I just stood out and just took the sun's rays in, and I said, God, this is our moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I just allowed the nature in the back, to do its thing. I allowed it. I
Yeah.
observed nature doing its thing.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, God, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's time you're going to do something. You already have been doing it, but it just felt so good. That and the sun and the weather, it was just great. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Aaron is with us.
What's good?
Cerise is with us as well, and everybody else who's with us, even watching the replay, but especially if you're live right now, hop in the comment section. We'd love to do a shout out. We're going to encourage you to hit that share button. We're going to continue our conversation from 2 weeks ago as it relates to dealing with giants in the way, because man, after what we've been talking about last night and tonight and last week and all of it's a lot in there that we want to unpack and process and go on this journey with you. So happy anniversary, Ebony.
Oh, awesome. Happy anniversary to you.
In the building.
Speaking of last night, if y'all didn't catch last night, Pierre talked about going to the mountain. Get to the mountain. 2 weeks ago, your message was it's time to go get it. and now it's get to the mountain. And now it's get to the mountain. Y'all gotta watch that. So So before we get into giants in the way, you're gonna have to just unpack just a little bit of last night for us. As other people are coming in. Lana, happy Sabbath to you as well, Lana. You gotta, and even if your mind will allow you, to just maybe perhaps connect what you started a couple of weeks ago to what you powerfully preached last night.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I preached this morning, right? I preached this morning for our Breath of Life in Memphis. Our friend Pastor Nathaniel Drew invited me to hang out and chat with him. And this is kind of how it all mixes together. Like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about it's time to go get it. And that was the conversation really about Joshua and Caleb, and realizing now as they're settling into the promised land, there is some unfinished business. And Caleb, going back to the promise in Numbers 13, is like, yo, last time we were in this spot, there were giants. I always believe we could take them in God's name. Everybody else wasn't. Now, 40 years later, I'm still strong. Like, let's do this. Give me the mountain. Now, in order for Caleb to take the mountain, that territory, he has to deal with the giants that are there. And for a lot of us, we're realizing that God he's just ordered some stuff from us, some stuff that he's already paid for. He's made the provision for. He's literally just saying, hey, I need you to go pick it up. I've already done the work. So that was really the context of it's time to go get it. It's time to do the things not only that God has placed on your heart, but he's given you a clear vision for and made the provision for you. You have to do your part. So in the conversation last night, we were talking about, man, in the conversation last night, we were talking about how we look at the story of the disciples, right? And in the story of the disciples, after Jesus resurrects, he has this conversation of really where the disciples are supposed to meet him in preparation for Jesus' ascension. And Jesus shows up. He's like, yo, well, Mary gives him instructions on where to go early in the morning on Resurrection Sunday. And they're like, all right, cool. But they don't go yet. And then that evening, Jesus shows up and is like, hey, receive the Holy Spirit. All power is mine. You know, something amazing is about to happen. And you would think that they would make the journey from Jerusalem to Galilee at that point. It takes 4 to 10 days, depending on how fast you're traveling. They still don't go. And then it's like 8 days later, Jesus comes back and it's like, yo, okay, Thomas, let me show you my hands and my feet. Let me show you my side. I need y'all to get there, get to the place I've appointed for you. And finally, they leave the spot in Jerusalem and they go toward the Sea of Galilee. They ended up fishing. Sea of Galilee, Sea of Tiberias is the same thing. They end up fishing. And you realize when you're reading all the narratives together, they were never supposed to be fishing.
Wow.
Just not supposed to be there. And Jesus shows up by the Sea of Galilee. And it's amazing how Jesus consistently shows up in spaces where we're not supposed to be, to give us what we need to actually get to the space where we're supposed to be. And Matthew chapter 28 demonstrates for us that they were supposed to be meeting Jesus in the mountain.
Yeah.
So as we look at all of Old Testament, all of the Hebrew scriptures and the consistency of the mountain experiences with God, as we look at Caleb, who recognizes that God had promised him a territory, and that territory has a mountain, and he wants to take this mountain in God's name. And now as we look at the disciples, we recognize in order for them to reconnect with the mission, in order for them to get clarity, in order for them to draw strength and have a deeper understanding, they need to meet Jesus in the mountain.
Wow.
That's close to Galilee.
Wow.
And anything less than the mountain is a space where you're not supposed to be. And Jesus in his grace and mercy shows up in those spaces to get us to the space where we're supposed to be. And even when we finally get there and we're not quite sure, he still trusts us with the original mission that he's placed on our hearts.
So you remember the old, I don't know if people still believe this. I don't know. And if they do, the last few weeks really has dispelled the myth of the spirit or the holy angels just not being in places where you're not supposed to be, when we have seen
not true, man.
Over the last couple of weeks where Jesus will show up after explicit instructions of where to be and to lovingly show up where you are. And then, wow. And I'm even thinking of exile, where God fully manifests himself to Ezekiel.
Yeah.
In such a blaze of glory, which is nowhere near. I mean, the temple doesn't exist at this point anymore. Everybody's exiled into Babylon, pagan country. And God is just like,
shows up.
Here I am in full, you know.
Bruh, I don't know Worship and Word family if you have this experience, but I have experiences being in places where I'm not supposed to be.
Yeah.
And people telling me, you shouldn't be here.
Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, what? Who are you?
Right.
Like, you shouldn't be here. And I don't want to see you here no more.
Right.
I know I've been in places, and Lana's talking about it, man. I know I've been in places where if I was not escorted out.
Yeah. 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 Listen. You know, that is if that does not,
Listen,
what else do we need
bruh.
to know that God really loves us?
Story of Lot, right? Read the story of Lot.
Oh,
Again.
wow.
Read the story of
Yes.
Lot. As Abraham and God are having this conversation, you know, the two men go to Lot. Later on in the chapter, we find out that these two men are angels, and Abraham is having a conversation with God. And as they're there having this negotiation, at one point in the narrative, it says that the angels grab Lot and his family.
Come on. Yeah.
I think I'm playing.
Go ahead and find it, because we, you know, sometimes we have selective memory of the invasive, not even just the invasive. What would it be? Act of love where God will just come up and snatch you.
Listen, Genesis 19, man. Genesis 19:15. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Arise, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful to them, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. They pump faking. They pump faking, and the angel's like, "All right, cool, chill. I got you. Let's go."
Is not this the branch? Is it the branch that I plucked from the fire? What was that? Is that I think that's Zechariah. I think that's also in Psalms. I think also talks about it. And you said Joshua as well.
It's talking about Joshua, the high priest, standing before the Lord in filthy garments. Yeah.
Zechariah 3.
Yep.
And listen here. Yeah. Listen here. Like that's when you talk about snatching, me not talking about snatching in a bad way. We're talking about in a salvific, like come here. Yeah. Like I'm taking you out of what's going to harm you. Wow. And then I'm not a parent, right, Pierre? But you've experienced these moments where out of love, knowing where, you know, your children ain't supposed to be touching something, or you know, and you just gotta because even though, and that's probably why I don't got kid kids, because I'd be the one, I'd be like, y'all going it just take one. It just take one. But there are moments, paternal moments, where you're just like, I don't want you to experience that.
No.
Not now. Yeah, like nah. And so and
we got to be careful. Man. Sometimes we get so arrogant with the grace and mercy that's been shown toward us. That we begin to consider ourselves a little bit better than other people. And I think this goes back
blessed and highly favored.
Listen, you better be glad, like we were talking about last night, that your thoughts are not placed on a projection screen above your head.
Somebody better put the emoji in the comments of
the three monkeys.
Because wow.
So in relationship to what I was, the message for today that I preached earlier today, as it relates to giants in the way, as it relates to mountains as well, is when you look at Joshua chapter 12, when we talked about this on a previous Worship and Word, you look at the space where Joshua conquers 31 kings getting into the promised land. Moses at that spot only conquers 2. But the reality is, if it wasn't for Moses's 2, Joshua would never have been able to conquer the 31.
Wow. Yeah.
And how we need to celebrate, y'all, man. Celebrate the fact that there were giants conquered in your family history, some of which you know nothing about. They were conquered long before you got here.
Wow.
And even in the cases where the giants were not conquered, celebrate the reality that we have family members who had the courage to face things.
Wow. Yeah.
That maybe they didn't ultimately overcome, but the fact that they faced it gives you a perspective on life that you can do do the thing. And I said, I said, what can get to us is when we look at what they did and compare it to what we're doing. And sometimes we can be jaded because there was a first person in our family to buy a house, but maybe their house wasn't that big. Or the first person to get a degree, but their degree didn't ultimately lead to an amazing career or whatever the thing is, compared to, you live in a $500,000 house or you're an executive or whatever.
Yeah.
But you only get that because somebody fought the giant of being the first person in their line to go to college, be the first person to start a business, to get out of an abusive relationship, to lead to restoration, to break an addiction. That set the foundation for the exponential appearing success that you've had. So don't turn your nose down on their small house, their degree, their accomplishment. That sets the foundation for what you have. And if strategically, if Moses does not take those 2 points in battle, and they were huge territories that he takes those 2, Joshua would have never been able to take those 31. So Moses' success set Joshua up, created the foundation. And I know it's only 2 kings, but those 2 kings conquered major territories, and it paved the way for Joshua to conquer his 31. In alignment with what we're continuing to talk about today, we got to ask ourselves, out of these dragons, we call them interchangeably dragons and giants, which of these giants are we going to be proactive about facing and conquering in Jesus' name for the people who come after us?
It's a selfless act,
man.
That's a very selfless act. Yeah, I think of. Remember last year, I talked about this idea of, if 70 is all we have. 70 years, and you hit that age of 35. So when I hit 35 last year, I was like, I'm at the peak. And it feels as if I shouldn't be asking what should I become? There was this moment of, what am I now going to start leaving behind?
Yeah.
And so the destiny question started to blend with the legacy, piece. And even now, obviously, it can still, they still coexist. But the closer and closer you get to the other side, you start asking, what am I truly leaving behind? Even if I didn't fully become what I thought I could be. That's tough. A lot of old people feel with regret. I wish I would have, but that doesn't negate what they were able to leave behind or were able to set up for those coming after them. That's a high level of self-sacrifice when you think about legacy, because it's not for you.
Yeah.
I mean, your name technically, is attached to it, but that's not what you're doing it for. You're not doing it because, when I die, my name will live on. I mean, that's how some people think about legacy. A lot of people think about legacy that way, where it's, I want my reputation and my honor to, be eternal. I want it to exceed my life.
Yeah.
I got 70, but I want a whole golden statue, right? More and more now, especially when we talk about generational wealth and things like this, it's less about the pride of one knowing you versus you setting up your line, your lineage for success, for greater opportunities than you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
For them to do more. I mean, even Jesus did that. Greater works.
Whew, that's a word.
He even left.
That's a word.
The legacy, right? And he's gone.
Yeah.
So anyway, that being said,
he only rocked it for 3 years.
3 años. So,
man.
Yeah.
Conversation today, folks. We're continuing a conversation for 2 weeks from 2 weeks ago. We're going to continue with this conversation. about the book Your Brain is Always Listening, Tame the Hidden Dragons That Control Your Happiness, Habits, and Hangups by Dr. Daniel Amen. We looked at the first 4 in our conversation two weeks ago. We're going to cover 4 today in the time that we have left, and then we'll wrap up the other 4. And when I was reading through these, Chris, I was like, man.
You got to tell me which one the movie The Matrix is in, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't put the movies on the slides. I got it in a book, so remind me to cover the movie for everyone. So what we do in this conversation, if this is your first time hanging out with us for this one, we go through what Dr. Daniel Amen describes as dragons, or we're calling them giants because we've been in that whole Hebrew scriptures giant motif. We're using the words interchangeably. And what we recognize is that these are feelings that wrestle us and can ultimately derail us in our personal and professional relationships because we don't have a handle on how to respond when we're triggered in these different areas. So what we do is we give a general overview of each one. We'll look at 4 today, and then we share personal stories relative to this or people we know that have dealt with this. If you haven't taken this test to give you your list of dragons, it's knowyourdragons.com. It'll give you a test explaining these in greater detail. And you can also purchase a copy of the book, Your Brain is Always Listening. We don't get any royalties, or I ain't put an Amazon affiliate link up. So just
at this point, we should have, but that's
we've been dropping books, right?
A lot of books.
All right, so let's go to the next one. The next one is the should or shaming dragon.
Have mercy.
The should or shaming giant. So the origin of this is you were raised in a culture of guilt. You were humiliated, embarrassed, belittled, judged, or criticized. This happens in many religious and cultures with strong moral teachings,
my Lord,
rules, and laws. Shame can be a strong motivator to get people to comply.
Y'all go ahead and exhale. Y'all go ahead and exhale. Don't let it out in the comments. Let it out through breathing. Just don't even think before you thumb your next words. Just go ahead and
yeah. You think I'm gonna plug up my phone. I'm gonna plug up my phone to charge what y'all thinking? Because okay. Triggers. Disapproval from someone important to you, such as a parent, spouse, boss, coworker, or leader, or perceived disapproval from God.
Wow. Wow. Hey, listen, y'all. We just talked about how the religious context will talk about how he doesn't show up. And Psalm 139 says differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends with "Oh, taste and see." That's a whole nother. So we project that because we may be in places, and not just geographical, not just physical places, but psychological as well, that God is now disappointed or ashamed. He's not, but it's been projected because of the social and religious constructs that we've been a part of. A lot of said don't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do a lot. Dr. Amen is doing it.
He's doing it. So this is how we respond to should and shaming dragons. And we feel guilty. We feel foolish, distressed, exposed, or overly sensitive. We engage in self-harmful behaviors in secret. Let me find the page on this. Addictions, pornography, overeating, which ultimately end up being dragons on their own. And though they can sow the seeds of anxiety, depression, and obsessive thinking.
Wow.
That I don't know if anybody has wrestled with that should or shaming dragon. Yeah. And it's interesting because this sometimes how it comes out in families, when families say you should be like, should be like, or, and I know this, Chris, I know it didn't happen in your church. I know it didn't happen in the churches of the people online, but we set up the person or persons who we consider to be the quintessential expression of what a young person in church should be like, and we judge all of the other people, the young people in church, by that standard.
Yeah, I thank God for my fall from grace, because I could no longer be considered the poster child, which I was at one point. So that's real. I was that person.
Yeah.
I was that person until I wasn't. And the crazy thing about that is that you don't look for, I believe many of us, because I didn't, you don't look for that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pressure that's added on you trying not to do the most, or trying to just be who you are.
Yeah.
Because if who you are is perpetuating the why don't you and why can't you, then it's like you're stuck between two, kind of two, not opinions, but just the spectrum of like, well, I don't want to isolate myself from those who aren't like me. They're who they are. But I also don't want to disappoint the people who have now put me on this,
that pedestal,
unwanted. Yeah.
And
with that too, it's tying this idea, that last piece that you talked about. You said one of the reactions was the self-harm in secret. The interesting about that is there is this vicious cycle. It's crazy, because what you end up doing is the shameful things that when you're done creates more shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how the mind works, and how this is the giant that deals with that.
Ooh,
so deals with shame and disappointment, and yet what we end up doing are the actions that still generate more shame and disappointment after. Maybe not during, but after, which then just repeats the entire cycle. All of the things that you've mentioned, I think every single one of them, those examples, I think every single one of them are designed or has a design to keep you in the trap, particularly addictions as well. Like to keep you in the trap of, this is all you are amounting to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole, we could have a whole discussion on just this dragon and what shame is. You already know that whole anti-hero piece.
Absolutely.
However, but I want people to be aware, because this one was one of my giants, to be aware that the things that you do, public or in secret, the things that you do, know that it's part of this shame design. So once you feel like you're escaping that by trying to do something to cope with it, that very coping mechanism is a mechanism of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you become more aware of that,
so dangerous.
It is. And I think once you become aware of it, you give yourself the opportunity to look more closely for the door or the way of escape.
Yeah.
To know that it's not about the action as much as it is about the feeling. Like, why do I feel this way? Where is this shame or this sense of disappointment coming from? And I think if you can separate the two, there's just like this metacognitive, it has to at some point be able to have that split second of, okay, what am I really fighting right now? Because what'll happen is you think, if I could just get over this thing, if I could just nick this addiction in the bud, if I could just, it's not that. That's not what it is. There's always a trigger behind the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we ain't gonna go. I was gonna go a little bit deeper. We ain't gonna go deeper. We ain't gonna go deeper than that.
Let's come back to it when we get to the strategies, all right? Because I think you tapped on one of the strategies. So I'll take a couple comments. I'll do the movies, and then I'll set you up for strategies. Rose says, my hope is the church can change from this mindset, which is displayed in the past. The church is supposed to be a place for healing, not shaming. Man, when you read the Gospels.
Yeah.
Woo, man. So El Marie says, we do this especially when we do not have a safe space to be honest. Reality is that church should be that space. This is tying into what Rose was saying. So when we fall, even in thought, we hide and develop more issues as opposed to being able to process and work through and know that regardless, God loves and family loves and people love and will not desert us. I think that's one of the things, Chris, that we make attempts to really model here in our conversations, the reality that we don't have all the answers.
Mhm.
There are some things that we're not sure about, and there are things that we struggle with, because that's the reality of human beings.
Yep.
And listen, a lot of times in religious context, we're seeing adults who grew up with should dragons
Right.
just projecting that
Mm.
in their environments.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes the people who project the should and shaming dragons the most, I think you mentioned this some time ago. I think this is not always true, but there sometimes is the tendency that the people who are the most legalistic have the biggest dragons in the closet. And they're projecting outwardly to ease the cognitive dissonance between what's happening in secret and how they're navigating the perceived world out in the open. So
I'm not even gonna say more than that.
yeah. So Marie says it should give us pause, especially when we are in positions of influence. Yeah. We need to understand that life and death can truly be in the power of our words. So be very careful with them.
Yeah.
Be very careful with the words that we say, even the words we say to ourselves.
To ourselves, yes.
Especially the words we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially the words we say to ourselves. So let's set up, Chris.
Oh, wow. Y'all thought that the ancestral giants was just strategies of the first strategy is revisiting your childhood. Yeah, a lot of us have repressed memories or traumatic experiences that we have just by default have forgotten, and it's only by sometimes not even journaling can help. Sometimes it's just professional therapy, professional counseling that's going to help to bring those things up. It's very. I'll give you a quick example here. So I'm doing this. These what's your story?
Yeah.
Things, and
they're really good, by the way.
Thank you. And it's not even because of what I'm doing. It's asking questions that trigger what the other person didn't even realize was connected to their story. It's crazy how it happens. So it's true. Crazy it happens. Because many of them may not all, but may think I don't really know what I'm going to be able to, how we're going to be able to, if there's even any details. And for a lot of them, it extends back to childhood. Mm-hmm. As much as I give the disclaimer, your backstory does not have to start with when, the who, what, when, where of you being a kid, a child. But for a lot of us, that's where everything else is stemmed from. You wanting to be an entrepreneur, you wanting to be a minister, you wanting to, just help the world by joining the Peace Corps, you wanting to, be an artist and express yourself visually or vocally, you wanting to be a scientist, you wanting to be the top engineer in aeronautics one day, like childhood.
Yeah.
Childhood. Revisit your childhood, and don't revisit it just for the traumatic experiences. But in this case, let's be real, we're facing giants and dragons. So it would behoove us to not just think of the childhood as, you will have to do the work to think of the good and the traumatic, the good and the disappointing. Maybe even the good and perhaps the seeds that were sown that didn't harm you, but then you harbored those things that, you started to use as rationale as to, well, Pops did this, so I think this is okay. I mean, I saw him do it all the time, but this is how my mom reacted when XYZ happened. So I'm assuming this is how I should be treating other women. Or man, my siblings, we always had like vicious competition or rivalry. So this is how I'm going to be in the workplace. Like that's what it is. So anyway, revisit the childhood is the first. Marie says this must be done in a safe space. Absolutely. And she mentioned safe space before. It's because it's so important, guys. Most retreats and things that happen outside of the typical church building is oftentimes where you would get a lot of our youth, young adults, emerging adults, and even adults to open up more. Because for some reason, the actual building itself, and you mentioned it, Pete, has this aura. Not all churches, but perhaps may have the aura of legalism, you just can't even walk softly in the sanctuary, let alone stand up and give a Holy Ghost laugh. So finding the safe space with a professional or someone who knows how to work through trauma. That's exactly right. She says there's a difference between revisiting, yes, and reliving.
Yep.
If not approached carefully, we will relive and be re-traumatized, re-triggered. Serious stuff. Yes.
You know, Dr. Daniel Amen, whose book we're looking at, is a psychiatrist. So he is all about making sure you talk to, and he does in his book, man, reading through, he's not heavy-handed with it. Like, you need to go talk to a professional.
Right.
Sprinkles that thing in all the time. Make sure you're having conversations with professionals, you know, not just your close circle, but, you know, professionals who are trained. And so we're sprinkling that in too. Man, let me tell y'all about the conversation I had with my therapist this week. No, I'm not. Get your own.
Get your own.
Y'all talk. All right.
I didn't know how to react. I was like, okay. Strategy number 2, reflect on what triggers your shame. Y'all got to be careful with this as well, because this is important. So just as El Marie said, that if you are not careful, you will relive instead of just revisiting, you will relive. If you don't find accountability, that's why I love the third one. Talk to someone about the shame. If you don't find accountability, what will happen is, especially for those of you who are thinkers, logicians, you will say, oh, now I understand what triggers me. So it gives me a better understanding as to why I'm engaging in harmful behaviors. And as I'm engaging in these harmful behaviors, it doesn't feel as bad because I know why I am. So you don't want to just reflect on it and then use that as the rationale as to why you do it, because, you know, I'm human and this is the trigger that I have. This is real. This is something that I have leveraged before. It's like, now that I know what it is, it shouldn't be that bad. God, you understand? Because now I understand. I think we're both on the same page now. But you still need to be able to be aware of what those triggers are. Right. And I maybe for the backstage, I was going to give a very, very particular example, because I think that a lot of people there is a misconception about certain harmful behaviors, man. That we think it's about the behavior, but it's not about the behavior itself. Man,
I had a quote relative to that. I'm gonna find it. I'll look forward and bring it next week. Someone was talking about the psychology of addiction and what's really happening, and typically what's happening is not what you think is happening. I'll remember it next week. I know limited time, but I'll bring it next week.
You know, so I'll break it down this way. You know, what I will do is I will share it in this manner. Now I'll do my best without, you know, because I know we still got to keep it PG. But one of the largest addictions that we have still to this day, especially in our church, and it's not just in church, but it's pornography. And what I'm understanding and what I'm realizing, even as someone who has grappled with it, I realized that it was really just a catalyst. A lot of people want to talk about that, but they don't want to talk about what they use that for. I know we got to keep it PG. And for a lot of y'all, it's just the means to the end. And for a lot of you, the end, if y'all know what I'm talking about, what the end actually is, the climactic end, it's because for a lot of y'all just weren't loved in an intimate way before. For some of y'all, you just might be deprived of oxytocin. When was the last time that y'all got hugged during COVID-19?
Yep. Yep.
And it's like we sometimes we will take certain things and say, it's this thing. This is the thing. And it's like, no, there's something behind the thing. And what you're simply doing is you're trying to use this vehicle, this self-harming vehicle, to get to a state that is going to make you feel shamed anyway, but it's going to get you there to feel a way psychologically, physiologically, that you might not have felt in quite some time. There's a longing for something else. It's misplaced. We know that. We understand that. But too often times what we do is, and we do this for not just that, we do it for everything. We do it for cocaine addiction. We, having worked with individuals who in behavioral health, I mean, I did a short stint, but it was long enough to understand the power of what that drug will do, man. And building relationships with men in like their 60s, 70s who said, I've been battling this thing for half my life. I just got clean. And they're like 65.
Wow.
And they've broken free from this thing, but it took 30, 40 years. And a lot of them have the same narrative that DMX had. There's this popular DJ back in the day in Queens who he said that was the culture where, people would just give you stuff and hand you stuff and, try stuff out. And he had no idea what he was trying out. And from there, my man just reeled. And anyway, that being said, there's so many different avenues and reasons. And I think oftentimes we try to focus on the actual thing itself versus what we just looked at, the triggers. Reflect on what it is that has created that. And also know that there are just some substances or some practices that are out there that the trigger is the thing itself. Like I want you, like sometimes it's not even because, I wasn't loving. No, it's because the thing is just powerful.
Yeah.
Like you. Like you just can't. That's like I just need, if I just revisit my childhood, and if I revisit and if I just get it there, that for it's detox and rehab for some of this stuff.
Detox and rehab. Yeah.
Right. Like, so I want us to be careful and knowing, pray, but with that prayer,
pray and
go pray and
man, we talked about this on several occasions. Don't use prayer. Prayer is the conversation with God, right?
Yeah. Which
serves as a catalyst to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God has already promised. We've talked about it before. We'll go get the mountain, take the mountain. God has promised deliverance.
Right.
But he doesn't put deliverance in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
You work towards that end. So prayer is not an excuse to get out of doing the practical pieces. It's a catalyst to actually do those pieces. So it's like pray and go to therapy, pray and go to the treatment program, pray in the treatment program, pray and get an accountability partner, pray and get a workout routine, pray and get somebody to help you manage your money, pray and like we get sometimes super spiritual and forget that there's spirituality in the practical. Like Jesus was a practical dude. So like even when we're like, man, we just need to pray. Yes. And like, somebody in your family or you that needs help, please don't just be like, we're going to pray for them and let that be the end. They need a treatment program.
That's real. We still on Dragon number 1. Hey, let's get these other strategies.
We gotta take Rose.
Okay, cool. Rose says, with social media being so strong in today's society, the shaming or should giant is challenging as we see others doing and excelling like we hope or want. But we have to remember God has us on our individual timeline and the journey is our story and no one else has that same story. So appreciate the journey you're on so you have a testimony later on praising God. Yeah. Listen, patterns may be the same, pathologies may be the same.
Yeah.
But your story is definitely your story is custom tailored and fitted made to you. It is, and I guess we have to be careful on, like there's some. I'm thinking of the sermon that Henry Wright preached, your story ain't no different from nobody else's. He's right in the sense of calling, say so. Right, the balance. But there are things and there are nuances that are unique to you as an individual that God is aware of. And yes, he has a timeline set up. He's already baked in all of the falls, the trip ups, the relapses, all of that stuff to still be designed for you to win, for you to be saved, like for you to still have the triumphant outcome, the victorious outcome. So
listen, man, I know, I struggle with this from the perspective of you want to be able to replicate or experience someone else's success, but you don't want those dragons.
If y'all only knew, man,
you don't want the burden that comes from that success or fame or accomplishment, because they're like Chris was saying, their framework is different from yours. And realizing too that in some of our cases, not all of us, y'all, but in some of our cases, the limitation is not that just someone else's story is different. The limitation, honestly, Chris, man, I just ain't trying to put the work in like that.
Yeah. So it hurts.
I'll be putting stuff on God that ain't got nothing to do with God. Like I just ain't trying to work that hard.
Yeah.
I want to chill and have X, Y, and Z. And the law of reaping and sowing, we talked about that before, right? With boundaries, it don't work like that. So some things are, it's just not my time.
Right.
That's just not my story. And some things are, I don't know if I want to work that hard. I would rather complain. Nah, that's not. I'm just talking about me. I'm just talking about me. Yep. So,
oh man.
This one, special, spoiled, or entitled dragons. This is our second one of the 4. These are special dragons, the golden children, the miracle babies. Sometimes it's the oldest, sometimes it's the youngest, sometimes it's the only. Your parents wanted and loved you so much that they could never tell you no. And treated you as the anointed or favorite one who could do no wrong. They may still treat you this way.
Mercy.
Your caregivers never wanted you to experience any pain, so they did everything for you, sometimes even your homework. You ended up with an artificially elevated sense of entitlement. And Dr. Amen says he sees this in the young musicians or actors he's treated. They were famous at a young age and felt as though they were special. They were, but it didn't serve their development. And this is what triggers it. You don't get your way, or when others try to make you take responsibility. Response, lack of empathy, thinking others don't matter much, or you throw tantrums, you get angry, or you become rude. So,
hey, listen. So, oh my God. So, I can't give a timeline for what I'm going to share because I ain't trying to put myself all the way out there today. Oh my gosh. But someone near and dear to me did tell me, as we have lovingly parted ways, it's like, listen, you need to know that you won't always get your way. Like, oh. Now I was in a place of humility to be able to receive that and realize, oh wow. I had to, while you're reading, I had to go through and check my email for my results again to see whether or not I had that, and I didn't have it on there. So maybe by the grace of God, things have shifted. But it's weird because, first of all, I got 2 questions. First of all, how many of y'all in the Caribbean household have received entitled? I just want to know, for those of y'all that have, like, did y'all get that? Like, so that's one, because we all resonate, not all, but a lot of us will resonate with the shame and the should dragons, right? Based on culture, religious constructs, and all of that. Yeah. But I wonder if you can have, here's my second one. So not just the kind of culture that you're raised in, because it would be very interesting, maybe even paradoxical, to have the shame and the entitled dragon together. Maybe I don't know. And if you do,
there's got to be a Godzilla dragon if they both together.
So, and you know, and so listen, if you guys, if some of y'all have both, just know I'm gonna pray for y'all. I probably should have
We
both.
pray for each other. Listen,
Yes,
there are
because
multiple dragons on my report.
because listen here, I'm also thinking, y'all don't y'all don't put it in, but I'm wondering, is it possible though, the second one, to have both the should and, or the shame and the entitlement together, and what that looks like, or what that actually, because I'm wondering now as we're just talking this thing out, if you can experience both, but maybe not at the same time. The reason why I say that is because, and that's to come back to look and double check my results, because I was that person who was like the, poster child at one point, and yet at the same time, I felt like, why am I even there? Y'all feel me? So that's what I'm telling y'all. Like, if some of y'all have that, don't think that y'all just super crazy. I do believe that they can coexist. Now, I think one might have outgrown the other, whatever the case was, or maybe I just, for whatever reason, the dragon ain't there on my list. However, I resonate with that idea of feeling like every time you do, Peter, you remember back in the day at school, and here it is. Hey, sometimes, and so let me also share this with you guys before we go to the next piece. Is sometimes it's not because of what has happened in your family as much as just maybe even the gifting that you've been given. Hey, so Pierre might remember this. Like there were times back in school, like spoken word was my thing. I would,
boss, you killed it.
And the drum stuff too, but not as good as like some of them other guys. But like the spoken word joint, and I knew then it ain't how it is now. But then, like in just a short amount of time, I could craft something together and just. So okay, listen. So there's a talent show that happened at like 7:00 on that Saturday night, right? You remember that's huge? That was the first talent show that happened in the HVAC theater.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't start writing for the talent show until like 3:00.
I remember that one.
And I ended up writing an entire piece. Yeah, I ended up writing an entire piece of just filled with alliteration, all A's, all B's, and all C's. And it all made sense.
Yeah.
And then memorized it. And then got third place. Now, I said to myself, if I really took the time, I would have really gotten, But the point is, y'all, the entitlement of knowing. Y'all listen to me. I didn't say this just to say this. The entitlement of knowing that I got the song. Let me go ahead and just I don't really need that much time. I go ahead, put something down. It was almost as if I was entitled to know that I could just do something and I would get the especially from the crowd, I would get the reaction, the approval, the praise. You can generate. Listen, that giant can be kind of generated based on even the stuff that God has given you.
Yeah.
So I know he talked about the parental, and I'm talking to some of y'all with the gifting.
It's true.
That y'all just wake up, yawn, and stretch, and just cough out your gifting, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, you're so amazing. And eventually, you don't do it yet. You do the humble praise, like, oh, thank you. And eventually, on the back of your mind, you're like, you know what, I am that.
Why you gotta come at me?
You turned out.
Why you gotta come at me?
Listen, I'm only talking about myself. So anyway, that being said, y'all be mindful. If you're thinking and it's like, oh well, nobody's really done that for me in that sense, be careful. It could very well be that you have been gifted by God himself for certain things, and you would leverage that as, well, I'm entitled to a stage.
Wow.
I'm entitled to the microphone.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Yeah, hey, P. So I'll give y'all one more example. This thing is real. So I remember that and this is why we're talking about getting to the mountain, because God used to speak like, ooh. So I'm going to church. This was years ago, man. Going to church. I think I might have still been in high school, maybe visited from Andrews. But point is, headed to church, and God tells me that I'm going to preach. I'm like, that's not how we preach. God, There's already a preacher that's, you know who's going to preach that day? Eric Walsh, Dr. Eric Walsh.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So listen, let me tell you how rough it was. I don't even think I shared this publicly. It was difficult because I'm like, okay, what kind of Messiah complex, what kind of confusion? I literally had to walk out, and I was also on the actual platform too, and I don't even think that was planned either. I already told you a story about I wasn't even planned, so it was like this was an unplanned thing as well. I was like, yo, what is going on? Not only that, Pete, but my man didn't even show up. So now I'm in this space. I'm like, okay, God. Okay, is this really happening? Because if it is, then I actually have to open my mouth. I have to share this with somebody. I'm not just going to roll up on the public like, well, since God, what's going on? So I'm over there praying. I had to leave, going to the parking lot of the car, like, oh God, I don't want to mess myself up. This is deep. Like you don't want to be that person, right?
Yeah.
I go back, clear my head, go back up. And as soon as I'm about to talk to the first elder, like open my mouth, because I'm sitting next to him, turning my head to talk to him and let him know, I don't know how to say this, but as soon as I turn my head, my man, Dr. Walsh, walks up on the platform. I said, hallelujah. I didn't want to be the one. And the reason why I'm saying this, y'all, is because if this was a dragon that I'm not saying that, it has been fully slain, or what I'm saying is sometimes dragons die and they come back up, and you got to keep killing them. You got to keep them, not suppressed, but you got to, I don't even know how Dr. Amen talks about what they are and how, some of them, they just kind of stay in like their little cage until, but what I will say is this, y'all, if I was not or did not battle that dragon, I'd have been so excited. I'd have been so entitled. I would have talked to nobody and just felt like this is my moment.
Yeah.
And I'd have been embarrassed, y'all. My credibility would have been shot for years. It would have been like, ooh, who does he? You good, but you ain't that good. For you to. So I'm just saying. So that was a moment of like having overcome that thing and knowing that I was not in that place to be like, oh, I'm entitled. I ain't that entitled. So anyway, y'all just know
where I've seen that. Ooh, let me be careful.
Start anonymizing. Go ahead and anonymize the place, the person, the time.
I've seen that one. Oh, never.
Okay.
I'm just
hearing. Okay. Aaron says, this is one of my giants. I am the oldest. I was allowed to do everything I wanted to do, or even things other people influenced me to do. I was very rarely, if ever, told no. And as a result, I have been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I deserve everything and even use this to justify things I do for myself excessively. Listen, that, first of all, Aaron, I appreciate your transparency.
Yep.
You probably just freed somebody today, if not in a rebroadcast, if they come across your comment, for them to accept the fact that this also very well could be theirs. I realized this in relationships for me as well. That right there. I just said it out loud. Yeah, that right there. You deserve everything. Even use this to justify things that you do for yourself. Yeah. Just know that you're not alone. Because I'm also the oldest, only by like 1 year, but still. But it's different too for guys versus versus women, and especially the firstborn male, and it's a whole other thing too. You get a lot of flexibility. Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, let's let him. He's okay. Just So anyway, yeah, Aaron, thanks for sharing that. This is real. This is real. Yeah, Elmarie says calling it by the name is the first step. And admit, and therefore can work with and on it. And she's praising God for Aaron's transparency. It's just, yeah.
You better praise God. We got a therapist in the comments.
Listen here.
Y'all messing around.
Listen here, y'all. Anyway, I'm done putting myself. I already done aired myself out like 3 times already.
Cool. So for this one, strategies. Recognize and embrace your responsibility. Notice how good it feels to promote others. Ooh.
That is so wow. Ooh. The LinkedIn recommendation.
Yeah. Promote. Listen, some of y'all, for us, man, on social media, Y'all know it's okay to share other people's posts, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like intentionally.
Yeah.
And as much as social media is a challenge for us, Rose mentioned earlier, but being intentional about not just sharing for sharing's sake, but intentional about supporting the efforts of other people. Man, it just giving, sharing has scientifically benefits for all of us.
Yep.
Practicing things from another point of view, catch yourself. And I think this is something that was just mentioned, realizing, okay, I need to catch myself justifying my actions, and then spend less time around entitled people.
Ooh.
Now, the challenge with that is some of us come from entitled families,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Entitled families. So, that could be a challenge, but, recognizing and embracing your responsibility, promoting, sharing, supporting other people.
That's good.
Look at other people's perspective. Keep that journal, that mental or physical journal. And when you catch yourself justifying your spoiled actions, take note of it.
Yeah.
Then spend time around people that don't operate that way.
Yeah.
Things rub off. Environments are really big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really big.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember years ago looking back in my old journal entries and realized it's like, man, I wrote about myself a lot. Now, I mean, it's my own journals. It's how I feel, but there's a fine line though. I think, and also just even prayers, because a lot of the prayers, and I think that's probably I should contextualize even more so. Like a lot of the journal entries were prayers.
Yeah,
there's a lot about me.
Yeah,
and I remember, I think it was John Piper, Pastor John Piper. He said that there's a way to pray concentrically, so that you can balance out. Being so he uses John 17, which is really the Lord's Prayer, where he first prays for the inner circle, right? He prays for the disciples, and then he prays for those who will come after, those who will be discipled. Then he prays for the world.
Yeah.
And so he says, based on where you are, like what you're focusing, you might want to start with, pray for the world first. If you're always starting with yourself, pray for the conditions and and what's happening around you, and then come in a little closer. Pray for your family. Pray for your communities, neighborhoods. And then even closer. I guess closer then would be you. You and those maybe close or intimate to you, but then it's you, because even then, Jesus started out with praying for himself. I should stop. I should change. He actually said, talking about, I have finished the work that you've called me to do. I've glorified you by finishing the work you've called me to do. So he started with himself, and then disciples, then those after, and then the entire world. So anyway, that's just one way of kind of keeping it, intentional. Even in your prayers, guys, we can pray entitled prayers. Oftentimes, a lot of us who deal or who are managing this dragon, we fail to do much intercessory prayer.
That's a good way to support other people, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we present you with that incredible opportunity on Friday evenings at 7:30 Eastern time, where the last part of Worship and Word is the prayer request that we place on the screen to give you an opportunity to support other people through the exercise of praying for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great plug-in, by the way. Lana says, I remember my daughter bought a car on her credit card, and she was livid, but her dad was going to let it go by, saying, next time, don't do that. She said, I took that car back. I could just imagine. She was like, she's like, her dad was like, don't do that. Like a slap on her. Don't do that. She's like, I took that car back to the dealership immediately and reported it as an unauthorized purchase. Yeah, you did. I was not a Christian up in that dealership that day.
Woo. Wow. Yep.
And rightly so, Lana.
Not today.
Not today. It rightly so.
Not today.
Rightly so. I don't know any other, well, maybe not personally, but because they do exist. And any other right-minded parent who wouldn't have done it in such a way.
Listen, not today. Shoot. Yo, speaking of which, man, I think that's a good segue into number. We got two more. Thanks for hanging out with us on Worship and Word Conversations. We're discussing Daniel Amen's book. The book is Your Brain is Always Listening. Tame the hidden dragons that control your happiness, habits, and hangups. Dragon number 3 that we're discussing today is the responsible dragons. You feel liable for the pain or situations of others, often because you felt powerless to help someone you cared about, such as a parent or a sibling who was suffering. Triggers. When somebody needs something, or when you perceive that someone needs something. So you do too much for others, so they become dependent on you, which ultimately breeds entitlement and resentment and creates unbalanced relationships and long-term stress.
Dr. Amen is good. He's good. He's good. Wow.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to catch this dragon one way or another.
One of these is your dragon.
If you ain't entitled, then you've been enabling entitlement.
You've been enabling. Man, check out it. Wow. This fixer. So I'm going to read his full. This fixer, this caretaker, this codependent dragon can cause you to do too much for others. So they become dependent on you. I know I've been missing out on the movies, right? But I'm going to give you this one. So movies that responsible dragons are drawn to are movies about healers. So Ordinary People, The Doctor, Patch Adams, those are the types of movies that they're drawn to.
Wow.
Yep. Wow.
That's
So this one, Chris, I think you've enjoyed all the conversations so far, but he says he's quoting Dr. John Townsend.
Okay.
And Townsend and Cloud Boundaries. Townsend, I believe, wrote Boundaries that we talked about before. He's quoting John Townsend, who says in his book, People Fuel, you have to evaluate 7 types of people in your life. This is a strategy for taming the responsible dragon.
Ain't that you're right. I would. Yeah. I love this. Wow. So coaches or mentors, comrades, close friends, loved ones, casual friends. So I guess those would be like, would acquaintances kind of go there? No, is that kind of separate? Because we've got, I guess if we think about like Jesus, right? Like he had his 3 and then he had the 12 or the other 9, I guess. So anyway, colleagues, co-workers, chronics. Now these last 2, these are interesting. And I like that he added these here. Chronics are the ones who always have issues. You might have to break that down here since you have the book on your side, like what that means. Like if it's just, they always show up with problems, or do they really have like physical condition? Yeah, I'm not sure what he means there. Is it always like the person like, child, let me tell you what happened to the person that always has the tea? I would probably put in the chronic basket. And the last one is contaminants, desire. These are individuals who have a desire to damage others. Wow.
There's one that I left off the list, and it's care.
Okay.
They depend on you.
Okay.
So, I think, man, for this, wow, if everyone is in the category of they depend on you, they have issues. Like if all of your people are there, that lets you know you got a problem for several reasons. One, if you don't have a person in the coach or mentor category, you're saying, I don't have anybody that's holding me accountable. Like that's a huge part of the jump off right there, right? Making sure, and then realizing that sometimes the responsible dragon keeps you in this loop so that you're distracted from working on the stuff that you need to work on personally.
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to take care of somebody else. That's why Self-care. He talks about this in this chapter, self-care. And some of us, let's be honest,
Yeah.
our Superman, Superwoman complex is driven by an unwillingness or simply being afraid to address what's challenging us.
Wow.
So we come to the rescue. We cover to distract from it by coming to the rescue of other people.
Wow. Yeah. And I can even see how that ties into the shame or the should
Yeah.
dragon as well, particularly when self-care goes awry.
Yeah. Rose says, this is me. It's partially a desire to be wanted and needed. Being a middle child is saying like I need to do something to be needed or seen. And then we talked about this before.
Yeah.
And several occasions. Yeah, man. It's because I think the deceptive nature of it is, right? Like, yeah, we need to look out for our brothers and sisters. We need to be encouraging and supporting and help bear one another's burdens.
Yeah.
And when recognizing when it shifts from that to let me
put the entire world on my shoulders.
Yeah. Let me just, I'll just take it for everyone. It says this became rampant during the onset of the pandemic when hospitals would not allow family members to visit sick or dying loved ones, or you felt insignificant, and fixing other people's issues helped you feel significant.
First of all, that dates the recency of this book, y'all.
Yeah.
This book was just published. So this ain't 10, 20, 30 years ago where he's just, it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's fresh. Yeah, see, so I think one of the common phrases in my past experience for those who deal with the responsible dragon is, it's cool, I got it.
It's cool, I got it.
You don't worry, I'll take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you literally have to say no.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I realized, just put myself out. One of the things that I realized is that what I, and a lot of this is cultural, but a long time ago I said, chivalry isn't dead. It was subjected to homicide. And there are those of us who, I remember living in New York, and you know, there's this old lady who was struggling with her bags. It's like, ma'am, want me to help you? She's like, no, it's okay. Struggling. And I was like, in the world of the Me Too and the cancel culture.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
The challenge is, and here's the challenge. The challenge with that is, I even realized that there were shifts when, I had friends or even significant others at the time who was like I got it. It was almost like this precondition for me. I don't know about anybody else. For me to be like, oh, she'll got it. And when she needs me, she'll. And then what that started to do was it started to make the part of me, the chivalrous or the whatever you want to call it, part of me is like, step up and do the things that you're not even supposed to ask, you have to be asked to do. It just made it very latent, And so there are those of there's some men who are out there. It ain't because y'all think y'all entitled or they got it, they could do it themselves, but you probably grew up in a culture, and for a lot of y'all, it's probably a matriarchal culture. Certain cultures are different. So there are many cultures that are matriarchal, but there's still things that the man is still expected to do or can do or is allowed to. But then there are others where, AP or Colleen tell you. Like Colleen, because I'm from the same club. Like they'll hold it down, and the dudes will just be like, just be chilling. And at first, in the beginning, I was like, yo, how come everybody's like, this ain't right? But then I started to reflect and also started to pick up on even some of my behavioral patterns and realize, this is not a misogynistic thing as much as it could very well be the responsible giant that has never been addressed.
Man, speaking of culture and even, navigating Caribbean culture as an American married to a Caribbean woman, wrestling with, like, I got it, right?
Yeah.
Like, from a male perspective, I got it. And I was like, no, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait, you mean?
I love the reaction. Yeah.
What you mean you got it?
Yeah.
I got it. So it becomes this thing back and forth, right? But there are things like, even one of the things that bothers me going to the grocery store, it bothers me going to, you gotta calm down.
He gets his goat.
It bothers me going to the grocery store if I'm like at Walmart or something. I hate Walmart in general, but if I'm at a grocery store and I see an able-bodied teenage male sitting in the car while mama is putting the groceries in the trunk, I'll be about to lose it.
Yeah.
I'll be, and maybe the responsible dragon is like, I got it.
Right.
But it just grinds me. But then I also wrestle with my wife. Like, I got it. I'm like, no, I got it. She's like, no, I got it. No, I got it.
Yeah.
And so I can see
it's something. Listen, especially to the mothers, who do have sons. Like you have to require it. It's not something that they're just going to pick up and learn, unless they're around other male figures or friends who they see that that's what they but if they don't have that kind of exposure,
you better get out that car and put
it's not gonna click. Listen, hey, every time I'm working, like I'm sitting down and I'm working and moms comes in and I can hear the stuff, but I can't get up because you better believe, even though I wasn't able to, the awareness every single time. Can't put my mom out there, but she does have the responsible dragon. However,
you just put your mom out there.
However, the awareness though of understanding the culture, like why that is the case. I remember back in the day, like our late grandmother, like when everybody was done, she'd be the one cleaning up everything, and my mom would be like, I got it. And her mom was like, no, I got it. But this my house. Like, so the culture is definitely a huge part of that thing. And it's interesting because you have the mother and the grandmother talking about that, but father and the son is just like, that's between them two. So anyway, that being said, this is a very, for me, I like this. It's a very nuanced, nuanced giant that affects other people's behaviors and actions, which relates to or correlates to enablement. Not just enablement in other ways, guys, traditional ways, but in some of the ways that I talked about as well, simpler ways that we really don't think about until, we talk about it.
Yeah, we got one more to go. And man, Cerise, Lana, Aaron, Rose, everyone else has been, El Marie, who's been really chiming in. Some of you are having conversations like around the dinner table or whatever, and you're not typing in the comments. That's perfectly okay. We just, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, as you're engaging, even thinking about what we're sharing, just want to appreciate and say we're grateful to you for that. We're going to take this last one. I know there were some comments about therapy that came up. So yeah. Remember I was talking about the conversation I had with my therapist this week? Remember I mentioned that?
Like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was going, man, it was something cool that he said. And I was like, I'm gonna share it. And I was like, nah. Get your own.
Get your own therapist.
It's right. It's an investment. Get your own. All right, last one. Angry Dragons. You've been putting yourself out there all night. let me just real quick as we're about to sign off here in our conversation. Let me just real quick claim Miss Dragon. My little homie, little fire breather. That's my little homie. All right. You were hurt, shamed, bullied, abused, disappointed, or perceived that you were hurt, shamed, or disappointed by others, or others modeled angry behavior for you.
I think the slide shifted.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of triggers, when anything reminds you of past hurt, shame, bullying, abusive behavior, or disappointments, and this is how you respond. This is how us with angry dragons respond. Anything reminds us of past whatever hurt, shame, bullying, abuse, disappointment for ourselves or for other people, you sometimes do the very thing that you're annoyed with saying. You bully, or you belittle, or you become annoying, or you look to break the rules, or you blame, or you fight, or you punish, or you name call, or you just shut down. You stonewall. I know y'all don't have this dragon. This is, this is just the one on my sheet. Right?
Hey, let me tell y'all. So he says she's totally surprised she doesn't have this one. Throwing axes at the wall.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
the rage room, right?
You know what? Hey, free somebody right now. If you have an entitled dragon, and the person that you with is an angry dragon who stonewalls,
wow,
you better be aware.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you better be aware because the other thing is too, if they know you, then they know. They know it's going. Why? Because you're entitled for the answers and for the solutions and the things to be solved right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm gonna go ahead and shut down.
Oh, Lana, I was coming right to it, Lana. I was coming right to it, Lana. So I'm gonna put my little cousin, fire starter dragon on this, right? Because he says angry dragons like horror movies. I do not like horror movies. That's not my thing. Yeah, right?
Not mine either.
Angry dragons like horror movies that inflict fear and pain on others, such as The Shining, Jaws, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs. Me, I like action movies where people get beat up. I don't like horror movies.
It's just too much
where people get beat up.
I will say this. I like psychological horror.
I don't like no. Y'all can keep all of that.
No. So the psychological it's like it's not the outright Halloween. It's not that. It's the experience where you think.
Okay, I got you.
It's hard to explain, but anyway, yeah. But not that every time you turn around there's that doesn't do it for me. Those that's from a storytelling perspective, they just suck. However, where's the Matrix in this, man? Like we
ain't got to him yet.
We ain't get it.
More. We got 4 more. We got 4 more.
Well, I ain't gonna say nothing next week because I already didn't tell y'all I have these dragons today. So
we got 4 more. All right. So here, man, your boy went in. This is the last one we're gonna talk about today. We're about to sign off, but your boy went in. Your boy went in, man. Boy, Dr. Amen, he went in.
Oh, man. Okay.
When George Floyd was killed by a police officer in May 2020, nearly 3 months into the coronavirus restrictions, it fueled these dragons. And some people, the angry dragons, were so powerful that they stomped all over their anxious dragons, enticing thousands across the nation and around the globe to disregard social distancing, and for some to defy recommendations to wear a mask in public in order to protest Floyd's death. It was as if all the fear of contracting COVID-19 was wiped from their brains when these angry dragons roared into action.
Wow.
This shows how dragons from the past can battle each other for your attention.
Let that sit for a little bit. see, y'all think y'all can compartmentalize y'all dragon. dragons will fight for its own attention. That is
Yeah.
Sal Marie says, angry dragons, if I attack you first, then you do not have the upper hand on me. You cannot do it to me again. So attack first to protect self. You know, so I ain't gonna put you out there. I'm gonna leave you out there. But yes, I have this dragon too. Now, I will say, I will say that when George Floyd happened,
I'm gonna read the Carlise. I'll read the full list.
Yes,
in just a second. But go ahead, Chris.
Yes, I had to get off social media.
Yeah,
social media. I remember commenting. You read all these comments, and then there's this one. At some point, I was like, "But hold on, I don't understand." Like I got in. Not in a negative way or anything, but I really just wanted to grasp, like, how could you? What would make you think? And it was at that moment that he realized he needed to sign off with faith, and I signed off for like the next 6 months. Like I was like, I said, okay, this is
what's re-triggering, Chris.
Yeah.
The fact that they keep playing the video because the trial is going on.
Let me tell you,
playing the video over and over on the major news outlets. I'm like, yo, don't give me.
Yeah. So I realized I had that. Well, now I'm thinking back now, like that dragon was there.
Yeah.
It's not their horror movies and all of that, but we talked about some of this last night. Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yep.
Like there are a lot of these movies where I'm like, you know what?
Anytime.
Even The Banker. I don't know if you saw that one yet, Pete. That's
of course.
And even Samuel Jackson said it to Anthony Mackie. He said, "You're angry." Right? He told him that. It's like It's like I'm not. But you could tell that there was something.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, yeah, because what's her name? Kimberly Jones, that woman that said, "You broke the contract."
Yeah.
When that monologue, when she said that, I was about to just break down in tears of rage. Not of sadness and rage. And I think that's when I also had to log off of Facebook, because it was around that time. And she was like, "Y'all better be lucky that we just out here just burning down a Target." She said, "Because if we really want it," I said, "Lord." And at the end, when she was done, I was like, Tell him. Yes. I said, "Okay, God, we need to talk." Because
I remember that.
Yeah. Because the duality of the Jews who sees Jesus, the liberator, Jesus, the Messiah on one side, and then Jesus, Barabbas, the revolutionary on the other side. And they're like, "We don't want that kingdom that ain't even here. We don't want that. We want the person who he been putting that work in. He been killing folk for us. We want that Jesus."
Yep.
And I said to myself, "Wow, God, if I was in that time, who would I have wanted? Who would I have sided with?
Wow.
If this angry dragon, if this angry giant really is one that I wrestle with, would I have said, 'Yeah, Jesus, yeah, I get it, but we don't need you right now. What we really need,
Barabbas.
Yeah, we need homeboy, because he been putting in that, like, sorry, but not really sorry. You said you're gonna come back, yeah. So go on ahead, die and come back. But we need." And I realized, wow, okay, God, it's the same thing today, where Jesus is still saying the same thing. Now I don't want to go all the way down into it, but Jesus also said, "Don't get it twisted. I ain't come to bring peace with a sword on me." So that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing. But just to say, I think the angry dragon, I think, unlocked for me, or was revisited in that capacity last year. Because I was really like, and listen, I know myself. You ain't gonna catch me out there doing no protest. Man, listen, some of y'all think that y'all you feel beholden to do certain things. There are other ways to be able to protest and to be able to support, especially injustices. And I know I'm going on a little tangent, but hopefully this will be helpful, because you may think that you need to be on the front line. Some of y'all need to stay home. Especially last year. I mean, COVID was happening, but I need to stay home, because it just might be that one look or that one slur, and you just
get out there and get triggered.
AP. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I got in my car once because somebody decided to,
Bruh.
and the car was still running, and I rolled up on the car like, what? And then I had to go back in because I said, you know what?
Yeah.
All it takes is this right here.
Yep.
Get back in your car.
There been some time. Yeah.
So anyway, y'all just know. Y'all just know. We resonate.
Okay, yep. Me too. Me too. So this is how it comes out. You get irrational rage, you get frequent irritability, you get regular frustration, and you respond with rudeness or inconsiderate remarks. You may express your anger in actions such as bullying, belittling, annoying, being disobedient, blaming, fighting, punishing, name calling, or stonewalling. Common warning signs include heart rate increases, sweating, cold hands, muscle tension, especially in the neck,
Mercy.
goosebumps, dizziness, or confusion.
Oh, that's dragon.
Mm-hmm. So on the way out the door, let's talk about this. Create a list of 10 things you can do to distract yourself if for only a few minutes to give your brain space to respond more appropriately.
Hey, man.
Anybody got any?
Counting to 10 ain't gonna do it for a lot of us.
No, it ain't.
You need to write out.
Let's take some suggestions as we're wrapping up. What are some things that you can do when you're angry to distract yourself, to give your brain space to respond? I'm gonna tell some of y'all, some people, go for a drive, but some of y'all need to go for a walk and not go for a drive. Because you get in the car, and when you angry, you drive a little bit faster than you need to. So, yeah, go for a walk.
Yeah. Physically change your space. Get to the mountain. Like we talked about this yesterday, right? Yeah. Like changing your space makes a difference, and just leaving the place from where, where it all happened. So for me, last year, for me, it was the digital space.
Yeah. You got to leave that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else I'm activating folk to start me on Facebook. So let me just.
Yeah.
So, so I think that is definitely a great one. Don't drive, walk. Just go ahead and just expel the energy in a forward moving. Hey, and do not for a lot of us, and this is important. Delia says, for me, it's a long walk, or go to the shopping mall and window shop. Hey, listen, sometimes people watching is very therapeutic.
It is.
Yes, man. So let's not negate the gunny sackers who are in this, who deal with this. So I'm not the person who immediately, oh my gosh. I'm the one in this, like, okay. Another thing happened. All right. Another thing happened. Okay. And then the last straw.
Yeah.
Everybody catching it. Everybody.
One little piece of paper.
Don't even matter. Yeah. So just because as you're reading the reactions, don't think because you weren't irritable frequently, immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't negate the fact that you still might be susceptible to, having to battle this. Yeah, this
crock pot is brewing. That slow cooker.
Yeah. So be careful with those. Be careful with those, and to even then, there are ways to de-escalate.
Yeah.
Because for those of us that are gunny sackers, I can't remember where the term came from. It's like, the sack is just being filled until one day it just explodes. What you're essentially doing is you're holding on. It's grudges. Let's just call it what it is. You're holding on to memories and experiences, and you're building a case against a person or even a system.
Wow.
That's like I had to leave face. Oh my God. Wow. Or a system. And you just So it's like in your mind, you're saying, okay, logically, if this person does it 3 more times, you're not even saying this to yourself consciously, but you're just saying, if they follow along this trajectory, I'm at the other end of that road.
About to elevate this.
They can go down this path that they want to. I'm on the other side. I'm waiting for them on the other side. They don't even know I'm waiting for them. So what you're already doing is you're judging the person. You're anticipating that this person isn't going to change. And if they continue down that trajectory, you're going to change for them. That's what the gunny sacker is. And that's what the anger piece is. That's actually a little bit more insidious than the person who just is, they the firecracker. They just quickly, it's the person who's just real quiet with it. It's the Absaloms.
Some of us ready at any time.
Anytime.
Some of us ready at any time.
Yeah.
Anytime. Lana says, I don't have to go to prison to know it's not for me. I'll just stay home. Yep. Just stay home. Just stay home. Just stay home. Carmela says, bang the piano, weed the garden. Yep. You play extra hard, Camilla, when you mad. This person getting on my nerve. So
I saw Weed the Garden, P. Let me shut up.
Yeah. No, just read this. Just read this.
He says, engage the left side of the brain. Facts, recite things from memory, count backward in weird increments like 7s. Work to shift your brain from the emotional to the objective. We should have run Elmer. We go listen. We go.
We got to talk. We got to talk.
Yes. Because yeah,
we got to talk.
Cerise says kickboxing, rage.
That sounds like Cerise, right? That sounds like Cerise.
You got to find a space. Go ahead and let it out. For some of y'all, it ain't walking.
And embracing the reality that some of us have angry dragons. We kind of like being angry. Like, you can stop it. You can stop it. You can go for a walk. You could jump rope. You can go into the garden, cook a meal, take a shower. It's a whole list of them in the book. Your brain is always listening. We know. Sometimes we like that adrenaline rush that comes from being angry and popping off at somebody or being ready to. And it's in those moments.
AP.
It's in those moments where Evan
AP 2016. P 2016. Philando Castile had happened.
Yep.
And can't go into too much detail, HIPAA and whatnot, but there's an altercation. One of our clients said some stuff to me.
Oh man.
And he was not black. And even what he said, it was what he was doing too. Okay. It was at that very moment I had made the decision in my mind that I was going to resign after what I was going to do.
Oh man.
It was that kind of like,
I remember this story.
Yeah, I was like, that's what we. And my coworker, you praise God for the people who know you, even if it's for a short period of time. She said, "Chris, just get up and just get it right now. Just go ahead and get in. Like, don't just get up and walk away." That whole get up and remove yourself. Like, listen, get up and remove yourself from the situation. Because I said in my spirit, oh yeah, when I'm done, I will take my badge off, will clock out, and receive my last check. Like this, that's it. And so when you talk about just El Marie talking about counting backwards, and you have like there is just as simply as I made the choice, because you said it, Pete, like you said, like we make the choice. I also had the space by the grace of an external voice that said, Chris, don't do it. And I made a different choice.
Yeah.
I made a different decision. Because at that moment, Pete, like at that moment, I said, I am going. Fire. I might even get arrested. Like, I have made the decision. And she was like, change it. Change the choice. So praise God, I changed the choice, man.
Delia says, to be honest, speaking my mind at the time is therapeutic. And I want to come at this as well, because for some of us, it is better when a situation happens to express how you feel.
Yeah.
For some of us, you got to make the decision how that works for you, to express how you feel, as opposed to you keep it in, the crock pot gets turned up.
That crock pot.
And then it's fireworks.
That crock pot.
So you got to make the determination. For some of us, you just express how you feel, express your frustration, get it out, versus letting it simmer. And then for some of us, it's like, nah, don't say nothing, because he's swinging 2x4s and stuff right now. So,
and if y'all are like me, don't take this, because some of y'all will get it out straight from here to here. And I had to learn the hard way. Some of y'all be writing angry emails in the work intranets as if they can't see them. Go ahead and put down the digital devices.
Grab the journal.
It's even more, because it's even more dangerous when you don't even have to speak, but it's just being immediately downloaded from your brain to your thumbs or to your fingers when you're typing, you're texting. So y'all be careful, because that's. So he says, I agree with Delia. It's the expressing self in a constructive way that is the issue. Yeah. In a constructive way.
In a constructive. That's the key. That's the key. So we got 5 to go. We will knock out the 5 in our next conversation. And again, as we are sharing with this, as identifying, admitting to, walking through the process, all of that, it's also, man, Chris, I think it's perfect the way you came to it at the end, realizing that we have a choice. We got a choice. And embracing the choice to ask God for help, especially when our dragons are on fire. And he promises to do that. And it can't just be like, oh, I'm going to ask God for help. Sometimes the best way to work through is to have that conversation with God before your next encounter that triggers your dragon. Yeah, before. Have that preemptive conversation. And you know the best way to do that?
Should we wait for them to put it in the...
I mean, there's some people who are like, I don't know what they're talking about. What are we supposed to do? Yeah, just the comments will tell you from this point on the best way to do that.